Enjoy the ride with Crystal Petry. Consulting, so inspiring. Pushing you to your dream.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of 60 Minutes With. I'm your host, Crystal Petry. On this week's podcast, you will be educated on how to make sure your children, even your grandchildren, do not live paycheck to paycheck. And here to educate me and you is Ferrell Hurt. So welcome to the podcast, Mr. Hurt.
Welcome. Thanks to be here. Glad to be here.
I'm so glad that you agreed to do this podcast because normally, and just speaking for myself, when I hear financial literacy or savings, banking, things like that, I automatically think of adults.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the visual I get. But that is not where you and your organization is coming from, correct?
Correct. We are Genesis for Generations. We are a nonprofit organization that believes in financial literacy. And thinking about financial literacy, it just doesn't start with the adults, but also starting the kids at an early age, learning how to save and to budget.
Tell me, what is financial literacy? Which I know is a broad question.
Yes.
But to the best of your ability, what is financial literacy?
To give it to you in a nutshell, financial literacy is just the knowledge, the skills, and the behaviors that one has a good understanding in to make the best money and credit decisions for the future. So it's utilizing those skills around budgeting, saving, as far as setting up retirement to set themselves up for their future savings.
Your nonprofit organization, as well as you, why did you choose your target audience as children? And by children, I mean kids, teenagers, I guess 18 and under. Why was that your target audience?
So many statistics start when we are in our early ages, and so therefore focusing financial literacy with that same target as an interest, and understand that we can begin to have generations understand how to do this at an early age. We wouldn't have such of a debt high ceiling with so many families suffering from those living paycheck to paycheck, or having to pay their bills, or how to pay their bills, or even struggling with having to produce their dreams as far as entrepreneurship. So starting as early as we can, helping them understand that these are very good principles that they can start using at an early age.
What age should parents, and I'm going to throw grandparents in there too because they're raising their grandchildren these days, what age should you start teaching your kids about money and savings?
I think it's really as early as possible. When they begin to ask for money, it's a good time to start teaching them about money. When they have that understanding of supply and demand, as I call it, the basic of economics, helping them understand that how money can be made and then how money is to be spent, helps them understand how to go out and work for it, as well as setting themselves up to also save money and also help them in the future.
Is there a specific thing, I know you said start teaching them about money as soon as they started asking for it. Is there a certain thing, like the first thing we need to start teaching our children when they started asking for money?
I think money begins with behavior, so needs and wants. I think it's the very much so foundation principle. If we understand needs and wants, that's how money is spent. Money sometimes, once you get older, is spent based upon the psychology of your feelings. So based that from a child's perspective is needs versus wants. Is this something that I actually need around the food, clothing, and shelter? Or is this just something that I just desire to have just for fun and entertainment?
When teaching about needs and wants, how do you teach that? I understand teaching about your needs. I mean, you need your clothes, you need your shoes, you need food. But when it comes to the wants, how do you teach when to purchase your wants?
I think that's where you begin to set up those steps and those principles around savings. What are we saving towards? And I think that's where you kind of get your kids to kind of buy in with the idea of a piggy bank. What are we saving towards? Are we saving towards buying a game or a set of shoes that we're looking to do, or even for a bigger picture, even to college? So how do we begin to set those principles based upon their needs and their wants? And I think you should make it fun. Every family should be able to make a grocery list. I say we use practical ideas, so make a grocery list and see, can we stay within a budget as a family based upon the needs that we have as a family and our wants. And I think those are the baby steps to start incorporating their ideas and their behaviors.
Do kids want to learn about finances?
That's a great question. I think they do because they want to spend money. So it's an early understanding of being able to how to spend money, where does money come from. So it's getting them to buy in on their understanding and their skills that they can really develop at an early age to kind of hone in to have a successful understanding about their wealth.
So we know when to start teaching. As soon as they start asking for money and asking for things, is it ever too late to teach your children or your grandchildren about finances?
I think that's what Genesis for Generations is the beauty of it, is because we allow the young and the old to learn, and we get to learn from each other. So I don't think there's a cutoff or age that you can stop learning about financial literacy, because even as we age older, understanding how do we set up our future generations for the principles of what's to happen next. How is land passed down from family to family? How is money passed down? Business passed down? So these are all principles in helping build that idea of generational wealth.
Why do you think parents and grandparents don't teach their kids about finance?
I think it's a scary topic. Sometimes we don't want to let our kids in on how much money, how much income is actually coming into the house.
Okay.
But also the kids are part of the expenses, as well as if they're part of a business, they can be part of the income as well. So allowing them to come in, but I think that's just a barrier between generations, and I think that's one of the things as far as the household, getting the education out there, getting the knowledge out there, so we begin to kind of get these ideas on the table, so everybody in the household, everybody in the generation has an understanding, and it's okay to talk about it, because we're going to have to cross that bridge somehow or another. If we're moving from the apartment to the house, we got to start saving for the house and for the down payment. If we're going to purchase the new car, so getting the family involved is the idea.
What do you think needs to be done? If you can give me like a tangible step or something, what needs to be done to educate or encourage, rather, the parents more on teaching their kids about finance? I know it's a scary topic. You don't want to let on about maybe past due bills or whatever the case is. But what do you think should be done to encourage them to go beyond that fear?
Because they understand the kids are the next generation. And I think that's the idea of those woes that you may have experienced as a parent growing up, those traumas, those financial traumas that may have happened. You don't have to pass those down. So let that be an eye-opening period for you to not only educate yourself, but also allow your children to be a part of your growth and your education as a family. And that includes the financial realm as well, so they understand what to do, how to do it, and like I said, include them on the purchases, include them on the goals. And every family should have a savings goal. And everybody should be bringing something to the table, even if it's just starting with the piggy bank idea or even a savings account. These are just practical ways that we can look to kind of help our children understand, as well as get the conversation for all generations to have.
You said something, Mr. Hurt, that I had never thought about before. You associated finances with trauma. Why is that? Explain that.
Speaking to the mindset of living paycheck to paycheck, so many times families don't lead on the conversation around financial literacy. So this prevents the next generation from learning. A lot of times we find out it's not until the parents have gotten older that they begin to kind of reveal the income or the why behind the why. And I think this is an idea that we don't want to pass down to the next generation, because this is a conversation that we're going to have. And money is always changing. Right now, a lot of times money has now even went digital. So how do we get the older generation incorporated with the younger generation of this understanding? But this family trauma is so psychological because it goes back to the basis of needs and wants. A lot of time we found families get into debt because of needs versus wants. Taking out that extra loan, needs versus wants. Purchasing the car versus that you need versus the car that you want. And that car that you want may cost you an extra $200 a month. Well, that has to now be budgeted back into your family income. So looking at these decisions and how they really impact the family as a whole.
Let's talk about, and this is a pivot, let's talk about how parents will sacrifice the needs for the child's wants. In an effort maybe to be the child's friend or make them happy. Or sometimes I feel like the parents do that because, when I was in elementary, I didn't have the latest Jordans. So I'm going to get my first grader the latest Jordans. Expect to that mindset.
It's that idea that we kind of begin to start breaking the barrier once we have that financial education. And kind of living away from that psychological idea that kind of keeps us living paycheck to paycheck or spending outside of our means. So being able to set up an idea, even if that's what they want for the child, get them involved with that. So doing chores around the house so they can raise money toward their goal, get their buy-in on that. And I think that'll help kind of deviate some of the trauma from the parent as well as the child, because the child may still want those. They may not need those. The parent may want to purchase. That child, once again, may not need them. So working on that psychological aspect for both the parent and the adult to now have a goal to work towards can kind of incorporate, deviating, and kind of breaking down those barriers and those traumas.
Okay. What is credit score?
Credit score is a very interesting number that is actually used to talk about your credit worthiness. It talks about borrowing money and are you credit worthy to borrow money. And this is a score that begins at a very early age and follows us all the way until death. Okay. And this is a score that in which banks and other institutions utilize to kind of see, are we worthy to borrow money?
At what age does someone start getting a credit score, or do you come here with a credit score?
You come here with a credit score, but it grows upon you. Okay. Most of the time, a credit score kicks in, and when you start acquiring credit or you start acquiring debt. Most of the time, it's around teenagers, around about 18. You can actually start building credit with some institutions as early as 13 to 15, wow, depending on the institution. So this is just ideas in which we can help our children understand that they come here with a credit score. So can you pay back that loan? All kind of incorporates with that idea.
What is the lowest credit score that you can have, and what is the highest credit score? I know they graded like letter A, B, C, D, and F, correct? Mm-hmm. So what is the highest number and the lowest number?
300 to 850. So 850 is the ceiling in which everybody's trying to reach. Mm-hmm. You can purchase certain things and have a good interest rate based upon your credit score. So those is the grading scale from 300 to 850.
And why do we need a credit score? Because we haven't always had credit scores. Didn't they kind of come into existence maybe in like the 70s or something like that?
Right. This was the idea once we started getting into the banking institution and the growth of money and how to utilize money within our banking system. And with this idea, we begin to kind of grow with the idea of credit worthiness. And this is where we allow ourselves to understand, are we able to handle debt? Can we pay back such loans? All these things are recorded onto your credit report. And this report kind of grows with you to kind of not only shows yourself, but also lenders, your previous credit history. And are you worthy enough to pay back those loans that you borrowed, setting yourself up for the future wealth? Now, why do we need it? Because we need purchases, such as cars, such as homes. And these allow banking institutions to say, are you credit worthy based upon your score, that we can allow you to, borrow this $50,000 or $200,000 to purchase the home, so therefore your family can live.
What are some ways, one or two ways, that parents can help build their child's credit score?
Phenomenal question. I think this is very much so a way that we can kind of prevent those financial traumas. One of the ways I love to tell parents to do, and grandparents as well, if they have a credit card, most credit card companies allow you to have authorized users. Most people usually have 3 to 5 open slots that somebody can actually be an authorized user. This is a very simple, easy way for a parent to have their child as an authorized user. You can either authorize them to have a credit card or to not. But what happens is every time that you make a payment, your payment history, your payment utilization, all these things now are reflected onto your child's credit. And the idea is for them to be a beneficiary of your good habits and behaviors.
Okay. So let's talk about investing. What is investing?
Investing is setting up money for the long term, setting up money for retirement, or setting up money for what you deem is for your retirement in the later days of your life and your living. And people like to invest in different ways, and there's no right or wrong way. I tell people when it comes to investing, just make sure you have your knowledge and your information ahead of time before you invest.
How do you talk to children or teenagers about investing? Because like you said, investing is for like long term or way down the line. Mm-hmm. Children are right now thinkers. So how do you talk to your kids about investing?
It's just really making it tangible. It's setting those goals ahead of time, whether if it's going to be something at the end of the school year, if we're going to be setting up, let's just say, for a family vacation. That's just some goal that the kid can be looking towards, saving towards, and the family can be saving toward. So making those things very much so practical for the children to understand this is our long-term goals and our short-term goals. And I think it's also using that vocabulary so they understand their long-term goals and also short-term goals and how to separate them based upon time as well as their money.
What is the difference between long-term goals and short-term goals?
Just around the time frame. Some people say a long-term goal is really just set upon the individual and that task that they're trying to complete. For a family, let's just say a vacation, long-term goal may be saving for that. Short-term may be budgeting within that time frame, saving money without spending extra money on the budget or spending extra money in groceries. So those are small things they can do to be working toward that common goal, that big goal, long-term goal of that family vacation.
Should kids, teenagers, everybody under 18, should they just learn about investing? Should they invest, or should they do both?
I think it should do both, definitely based upon their income and their status and their knowledge and their education. If you have the ability to do, definitely do both. But if the parents can help their children invest with your children. This is a very good way that you can actually build that building block and build that bridge of understanding financial literacy with your children.
How often should you talk to your kids about financial literacy?
I think it's an all the time thing. Every time they cut the light switch on, every time the car has to go somewhere to drop them off, every time they go to the refrigerator, it's a conversation around money and financial literacy. And they may get tired of it, but at some point in time, it's going to stick. So it's one of those things, use life as teaching moments. If they're getting prepared for a game, and if they have to buy the uniforms, or they're participating in extracurricular activities, allow them to participate in purchasing, making a decision on should they purchase the item that's $100 or the same item for $50. Which one should they do? Because now they begin to make decisions based upon their needs and their wants.
That's a great idea, because then they'll see money truly does not grow on trees.
Exactly. And that's what you want them to see, that psychology of making that decision. I have to need, let's just say, a baseball glove. So which one do I need? Do I need the one that costs $100, or do I need the one that maybe costs $40 and now save some money?
Right. What is your personal intention around teaching kids financial literacy?
My personal intention that we have a generation that is not afraid to save, that is not afraid to be entrepreneurs and to be creative in their thinking with the knowledge of financial literacy.
How does financial literacy affect people generationally?
It's one of those financial traumas that can be passed down based around a mindset. We may not purchase an expensive car because we don't know how to. Or we may not start a business because we don't know how to, and that may be something generationally passed down. So understanding financial traumas and this idea can be passed down generation upon generation, but there has to be one to kind of set the mark to say there is a better way. And I think that those are the chosen ones within the family that actually kind of bring financial literacy and education, therefore not only educating the old, but also educating the young.
Since you are educating our youth and educating our teenagers and some adults to some extent, let's talk about your financial literacy. Who taught you about money and saving?
Great question. It's very, very unique. I come from entrepreneurs. My grandfather, both my parents' side are both entrepreneurs, so I learned money from working with them as well as my parents as well. My dad's a tax preparer. My mom is also a math teacher. And so understanding money was very, very much so prevalent in my household. And now my brother's also a financial advisor as well. So it was all incorporated in multiple different ways, from seeing, my dad does business as far as an entrepreneur, seeing my grandfather work inside of his entrepreneurship business and watch how it grow and watch how marketing, these things that, relationships matter to your bottom line. These are all a part of the things that taught me about financial literacy.
And did you enjoy those lessons when they were being given to you, or did you appreciate them once you got older?
I have to be honest and say I appreciate them when I got older. I didn't understand always the importance of saving, but I think the aha moment was when the saving was complete, and now I get to purchase whatever that saving goals were towards. So I definitely now understand the importance. So I must say now I got the understanding now.
Excellent. You went to an HBCU, historically black college and university, Morehouse, in Atlanta, Georgia. So 2 questions here. Number 1, why did you choose to go to an HBCU? And number 2, what did you learn from Morehouse financially speaking?
First question, why did I choose to go? For the history that they had, as well as producing men, and also the networks and connections that I was able to kind of grasp as a young intern. My brother actually went to Morehouse first. He was the first one to go there, and I kind of followed in those footsteps, kind of seeing what it was doing for him and also his career, as well as the thing that allowed for him to educate and be a part of that room and atmosphere of growth for young men. Secondly, what did it teach me about entrepreneurship? But it took me back to those understanding around needs and wants. Being a college student, being on your own, being an entrepreneur, because I had my own business while I was in college. and my brother had our own business. So being able to understand how money worked at an early age, apartments and those things, interest rates, loans at an early age taught me, and it kind of equated to why I was in college, to learn and kind of perfect these things for the future.
Now that's something you don't hear often. You and your brother had a business while you were in college. What business was that?
We actually had a business that actually sold men attire, which was suits and ties, and those things that we actually would sell through our campus and throughout Atlanta, Georgia.
Were you successful?
Very much so successful. We're very much a small business,
Okay.
as small business owner as well as college students. But using our network of friends and those individuals within the city to kind of actually have a business that actually serve the community in which we were kind of incorporated with.
Okay. Well, something else that you're really passionate about is the lemonade stand.
Mhm.
Explain to me what this is. It's more than just like buying lemonade, right?
Correct. So Lemonade Day is a national day that comes to kind of teach kids about entrepreneurship, creativity, and giving them the ability to kind of understand it from their level of having a lemonade stand and also being entrepreneurs. So what we did over a few years is actually kind of adopted that idea with a few schools here in the local Golden Triangle, and we actually work with kids in their curriculum of learning how to budget, save, market, and also invest into their lemonade stand. It was very much so overwhelming to kind of see these kids understand the ideas, but the cool part about it was actually them getting their hands involved, making the lemonade, and having the learning come together with the activity. So now they understand what to do with the money while the price was set at what it was, but it's really teaching kids to be entrepreneurs and also to be creative.
So the lemonade stand, they are actually making and selling lemonade.
Yes, they actually get to make and sell the lemonade to understand the full idea of entrepreneurship as well as the curriculum when it comes in money.
And who are they selling it to?
So they would sell it within the kids, they would sell it within their parents. They would actually set a day aside. The parents would actually come by the school as well as the community would come by, and they could actually sell within different classrooms as well.
Okay, that's wonderful. Now, we're going to stay on the lemonade stand. I want you to explain to me just some different benefits, specific benefits for the kids who participate in the lemonade stand on Lemonade Day. So how does the lemonade stand teach the kids about marketing?
So from a marketing standpoint, it is their idea. They come up with the name of their particular lemonade. It may be just lemonade or it may be raspberry lemonade. So it's all about them being creative and open up that creative box of their mind for them to be entrepreneurs based upon their learning. So it gives them the opportunity to not only learn how to market their business, who they're going to market it to, and what's the importance of marketing their business.
How old are the kids that participate in this?
Elementary kids to middle school.
Really?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Is this in all of the schools in Southeast Texas or the Golden Triangle?
No, this is just a few of the schools that we partner with here in the local Triangle area.
Do you partner with other community partners outside of the school with the lemonade stand?
Not directly with Lemonade Day, but what we've done is actually partner with Jonathan Williams. Is going to be doing a camp this summer, and we'll be actually helping those individuals understand financial literacy and entrepreneurship.
Okay, and I had the pleasure of sitting down with Mr. Jonathan Williams
Yes.
on my podcast. So if you haven't watched that, please go and watch that. He was amazing, and what he's doing with the children in the performing arts
Correct.
world is absolutely amazing.
Exactly. I think it's so important to have somebody like here in the community kind of be a cornerstone and a pillar around the performing arts, and then his ideas around entrepreneurship, and then also wanting to teach those that come to his camp the ideas and the education around financial literacy.
Absolutely. So let's get back to the lemonade stand. How does the lemonade stand teach the kids, and we're dealing elementary kids here, about income and expenses?
I think that's the idea. It goes back, when should they start learning? And it's at a very early age of tied into an activity like the lemonade stand, kind of gives them that full idea of what it encompasses to be an entrepreneur, what it encompasses to understand math, right? You have to understand math to be able to count the money that's coming in. So they understand the importance of math. That's the day-to-day class they're learning. But also when it comes to entrepreneurship, how to market their business, what does it look like, what colors they want to use. Like I said, even to the different flavors of lemonade. Everybody doesn't want the same flavor of lemonade, and gives them that ability to create their business, their vision for themselves.
I understand that the lemonade stand is a particular day, a lemonade day, but truly, how long is this? Because I'm sure they can't do all of that in one day. Do they start like maybe a month before and it ends a month after? How long is it?
Usually we'll start about 60 days prior to the actual Lemonade Day. Like I said,
So
it's
2
a
months
national day.
before.
2 months before,
Okay.
and that'll come with the curriculum of understanding, starting with the math principles, leading them up into entrepreneurship principles, teaching them about investing as well as marketing for the business.
How are the children selected for this? Do they just sign up? Do the parents say, I want my kids involved in this? Do the teachers select the kids?
It's usually a teacher incorporated with those in their math program, so every teacher would get incorporated with their children learning the process of Lemonade Day.
Okay. And how does Lemonade Day teach about investing?
It's that idea for the future. You know, how do you save for your future? Saving for that activity, that goal, and is allowing them to pretty much set aside monies that they're going to be utilizing to be able to buy the posters as well as those things to market their business.
Do you have any stories or examples of kids who did the lemonade stand on Lemonade Day but continue to pursue that after?
This has now become a thing that we've done. Some of the people that have actually participated, our students, they actually go on to actually start their lemonade stands. We've actually had 2 students that we know personally. They do this actually every summer. They do lemonade stands in their actual community. One of the young men actually teamed with his church, and they actually do a lemonade stand at the church, and he actually gets to sell his lemonade with his church.
Wow.
So these are just moments that we kind of get to unlock
Yes.
entrepreneurship, and they get to kind of carry that on.
Should kids have their own bank account?
I think they should.
Okay.
That's the idea of allowing them to understand saving toward investing, as well as allowing them to have a place to actually kind of save for themselves outside of the piggy bank, which may be inside the house. But also it keeps them inside of the idea of saving for the future, putting their money aside, working toward chores, having that money now being saved so they know toward their goals they're working.
At what age can a teenager or a child have their own bank account?
It's a great question. A lot of banking institutions really kind of will start based upon the parent. A lot of times it's about that 12 to 15 range. Just have to find out from your banking institution.
Okay. Is it smart to give a 12-year-old, 15-year-old a bank account and a debit card?
With boundaries, yes. I think it's one of those ideas of seeing how much you can understand financial literacy. It may be a situation where we want to make everything practical so our children learn these things at an early age. And I tell parents, if they're going on a field trip, allow them to take the debit card with them, allow them to understand you have a budget, stay within that budget, and then also when the kid comes back, have a conversation about the transactions. Why did you purchase this? You know, did you need this type of loan? What did you order that was $20 worth of lunch? You know, if you made additional purchases, allow them to describe what was going on and why they made those purchases, because now we can tie that back into the psychology of purchasing, their needs and their wants.
So under the right umbrella.
Yes, right umbrella and right circumstances. I do agree with them having it, like I said, on certain situations.
You can get a credit card at 18, and I know this because I got one at 18.
I think we all did. Or two.
You know, as soon as you walk into college,
Right.
they're all right there. The
right.
vendors and the booths are right there. And they give you free t-shirts.
Of course, and we love free t-shirts.
Love free t-shirts,
Right.
right? Is that smart? It was not smart for me,
Mm-hmm.
but is it smart to allow kids at the age of 18 to get credit cards?
This is the idea of within boundaries and expectation. And this is why Genesis for Generations had to kind of teach them early on the importance of credit. So therefore we now know what to do if you have that credit card. Now what to do with it, how should you spend it. But also those transactions should be regulated. It should be one of those things, if we trust our children to have it, then therefore there should be boundaries set for that card to be regulated and also understand those transactions. But if they can handle it, I think it's one of those barriers for them to understand what they have the importance of. And also that comes with the education as well.
Do you think it's on the parents or the grandparents to set those regulations and boundaries, or is it on the credit card companies to set those boundaries and regulations?
I cannot blame the credit card companies because we give them the information, right? We give them our name, we give them our address, and we give them, most importantly, our social, which is attached to our credit score. So I think we give them that information, but it's on to us to regulate it with ourselves, with our knowledge, with our education, and our habits and our behaviors, which is really attached to our needs and our wants. And getting our kids to understand that at an early age really prevents them from understanding, if I did choose to get the first credit card, do I need a second credit card? to build my credit, even though, they may say, I'm getting the second credit card to build my credit card, I'm getting the third credit card to build my credit, but are we managing it correctly?
Is there a number too many for credit cards? Do you really need 4 or 5 credit cards? Is one enough?
If your life needs 4 or 5, yes, but also the understanding of why they're there. We have clients that understand why they are there. They can utilize them, like I said, for multiple people to have authorized users. You may want to put more than just your children. You may want to share the wealth with cousins and nieces and nephews. So that way you can use 2 credit cards to kind of balance out that utilization for more people in the family. But the idea of having those credit cards is, what are you going to be using them for? Right? Are we using them to build credit, or are we going in debt with them? And now if they're driving you in debt, the idea is you do not need those many credit cards.
Okay. What are, if you can give me, I guess, maybe 4 or 5 specific things that parents, grandparents, guardians need to teach their kids about money before they leave the house? And I'm talking like 18, 19.
18, 19, we should know about a budget.
Okay.
We should know about income.
Okay.
In which these things are done. Also, we should know about a credit score and how that is utilized, and then also how you are viewed based upon your credit score. Then also, we should know about interest. A lot of times we don't understand what interest is and how, when we borrow money, you can pay it back, but it's going to be added to an added amount in which you will be paid back. And also entrepreneurship, that their dream, their visions actually has somewhere to breathe and to live, and they can actually begin to start at an early age, at 18.
Okay. Speaking of 18, a lot of parents say, well, when my kid graduates high school, when they turn 18 or 19, they are out of my house. Is that smart financially?
Financially, I'm going to say no, but if they're going to college and moving on in life, if we have a financial plan for that child that leaves our house at 18, that's the way I like to view that. If we don't have a plan, then having them sit around or maybe figure out a plan preparing them for that 18. If that's your mindset as a parent, that's absolutely fine to have. But how do we prepare our children? How do we prepare that next generation before we just let them fly the nest with the lacking of less than the education they need to be prosperous in the future?
Okay, and speaking of going to college, your kid is 18 or 19, going to college. Of course, there are other options for them, but if they choose that traditional path of going to college, how do parents save? Because college is so expensive right now.
Yes, I think one of the earliest ways to do is a savings 529 plan. Okay. It's an opportunity for parents to actually have some beneficiary, which will be that child set up to purchase anything pertaining to their expenses in college. And this is an easy way for them to kind of have compound money over time being set aside for their child while they save. Because sometimes a savings account won't get you the interest or the compound interest that you need. But with the 529 plan, it's actually tax-free for them to pull the money out and actually use toward their child going toward their school.
Where can someone go to start a 529?
Actually, speak with your banks as well as a financial advisor that you feel comfortable with speaking about.
And how much money do you need? This is 2 questions. How much money do you need to put in to start a 529? And then how much money do you need to continue to put in? Is it monthly, weekly? How do you continue to increase that amount?
You can increase the amount just based upon your income and your desired amount as actually your goal to save. That ending goal for your child, actually based upon the 529 plan. How do you start it? It's very, very minimal. My understanding is really under $200. You can actually start a 529 plan and begin to allow that money to compound for your child over time.
Why is financial literacy so important to know?
Because it's never going away. It's one of those things that is going to be here, and it's in all of our decisions, no matter what it is around school, whether if it's around job, whether if it's around just living day to day, making those day-to-day decisions. It's going to be here. So why not equip ourselves with the education and the knowledge that we need for not only now but also future generations?
Explain the power of money.
The power of money, that's a very good question. I think it's based upon how it's utilized and how it's viewed, and then also who is actually using it. I think it's one of those powers in which it can be used for good, but also we've seen in life that people have been able to utilize their money as a negative tool. But understanding really what it can do to also not only help yourself but also help your future generations is an idea that we have to get a good understanding of, which is a lot of time attached to our emotions. And we can get those emotions understood, and we have a good grasp of what to do, how to do it, how to set ourselves up for a future. How do we budget? How do we set those goals? Kind of keeps us aligned.
How do you separate the emotion from spending?
It's one of those things you have to kind of train yourself. I think it's one of those things where you have to kind of train yourself, but also give yourself recognition. If you went to the grocery store and stayed within your budget, give yourself recognition. If you went out on a spa day or self-care day, stay within the budget, but also recognize you stay within that budget. So these are just ways that you can also do it, but also stay within that budget within yourself. And then I'll recognize that I stay within my budget, and now that becomes a habit. And now we get the right activities within that household, and hopefully now we're actually teaching this habit along the way to our future generations.
It used to be said, and maybe it still is, that cash is king. Explain that.
That was an old cliche that a lot of people use, and even to this day may still believe cash is king. But so much of our credit worthiness and big purchases actually kind of depend on our credit worthiness, which is our credit score. So understand that cash is a resource, but I would not call it king, because so many other choices in our day-to-day life, in our communities, people have to utilize their credit as well.
Give me maybe 3 or 4 things that parents can do every day to teach their kids financial literacy.
Give them allowance.
Okay.
Number one, also give them a place to save that allowance, and then also set a goal for that allowance, right? So we're going to give them allowance so they can actually, purchase whatever they want, or even begin to save for whatever they actually are going to be setting a short-term or long-term goal for. I think those are just practical ways that we can kind of begin to kind of set those ideas and those behaviors in line for our future generation.
You have explained to us the power of financial literacy. Explain to us the power of not having financial literacy, because there's power in that too. Maybe not the good kind though.
The power of not knowing. And that's one of those things which you talked about generation. How do we pass that along? It's the not know of the not know. If we don't know what we have, then we don't know what we're passing along. And that's really understanding the power of it. And if we don't have it, then what are we really teaching? What are we really explaining? Who are we leaving this up to? Are we leaving it up to the credit card companies to be polite to our 18-year-old? Are we leaving it up to our kids when they come to their first time to purchase a house or to move into an apartment, and they have to call and say, hey, can you actually be a co-signer? So how do we want to set ourselves and our future generations up is very much so how we should make our decisions now. Is
living paycheck to paycheck a mindset?
Sometimes it's mindset, sometimes it's income. And I think it's one of those idea of wherever you are, once you realize that's not where you want to be, doing those necessary activities that actually give you the resources that you don't live paycheck to paycheck. And sometimes it's really just realizing what do you have in front of you, setting a budget and staying within those boundaries.
If you're living paycheck to paycheck, and I know everyone's situation is completely different, and this is a very broad question, but I know you can handle it. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, does that mean that you're living beyond your means, basically?
I don't believe so. Like I said, it can be based upon the income that's brought into the house. And it can be attached to a mindset. I think the first things first is looking at your needs and your wants, look within your budget, and look at where you are and how much money you're bringing in. And also look at your time. I think time is also associated with the money a lot of times. So looking at where you may have something entrepreneur that needs to be birthed, so therefore you can generate some extra income. Or there may be extra hours in that you might be able to pick up a second job to actually help the income for the household and those goals of the household.
Okay. Is saving and budgeting, should that be habitual?
Every day. It should be an everyday, every season opportunity for families and generations to kind of build themselves. And it starts with the understanding of what it is and how they can actually utilize it.
Okay, 2 questions here. How do you start saving and make it habitual? And how do you create a budget? For people who don't know anything about how to create a budget, how to save, how to start it, explain that to us, please.
Looking at how do you start with a budget. Looking at your budget is looking at your income, looking at your expenses, how much money is actually coming into the household, and then based upon your needs, how much money is going out, and then looking at what is that bottom line, what is actually left for you and your family to have, and then being able to stay within those means for yourself as well as the household. What was the second question?
Savings. So
Savings.
How do you start saving and how do you make it habitual?
How we make savings habitual. If we've never done it before, start with the piggy bank. I think older people, as you get older, it's okay for you to have a piggy bank because we may not be able to make it by the bank every single day or every single month or every single week. But you can make that something for money to be drafted out of your account to go into your savings account. So if you're one of the people that is best for it to be done digitally because you can't get by, then set it up for there's a reoccurring actual savings to be done to an account that you may not see every single day or every single month. So you know that you're saving because you see the money leave your account, but you know that you don't have to touch it, but you know you have a savings actually that's going to be done. So setting those behaviors up for yourself and for your household.
What, as we get ready to wrap up this podcast, and you've been amazing, What do you think would be your best piece of advice for children when it comes to financial literacy and for parents and grandparents teaching their kids about financial literacy?
Collectively, I would say do it as a family, do it for the generation. And then also understand the importance of not only the goals, but also the importance of the generational wealth and how your family is going to do it. And it really starts really boiling down. I know I've said it before. It starts with understanding your needs and your wants. And those needs and wants can grow per generation. They can grow once you're saving money. But at least figuring out as a family, as a generation, what are our needs, what are our wants, how do we categorize it, and how do we grow together? Not only understanding the money portion, but also most important, the knowledge, and then utilizing those skills and behaviors every single day to grow.
Okay, now let's talk about your nonprofit company, Genesis. Tell me a little bit about that.
So we're a nonprofit organization that's society, of course, about financial literacy, as well as financial literacy, homeownership literacy. These are two things that we found are very much so important to our next generation's growing, and also not only obtaining the actual knowledge, but also the actual the homes that they're going to be able to live in for future references.
Do you have classes within your organization, and how does that work?
Yes, actually we teach it. We teach it through workshops. We teach it through some of our partnerships here in the local area where actually you can team in on our website, genesis4u.org. If you're wanting us to actually come and talk to someone about our financial literacy, our curriculum, our education, doesn't matter the age, you can go to our website and set up a consultation. We'll talk to you discussing those ideas.
Okay, and what is your website again?
Genesis4u.org. That's Genesis, the number 4, the letter U.org. And strategically it reads Genesis 4U.
Awesome, awesome. Now your classes, do you have those on a revolving schedule, or does it depend on the amount of interest?
It is about the amount of interest. Is actually we're going to be setting some up in the summer. Coming up in the summer, the last Saturday of each month, we'll be setting those classes up and those workshops for the community to come out and be a part of.
Are those classes free, or is there a minimal charge?
The classes right now are absolutely free because we actually want to educate the next generation as well as the population here around the importance of it. So getting them out, getting them to hear it, and also being able to do it.
Now, the location for the classes, can they get that from your website?
Directly. Everything will kind of be directed upon the website, as well. If you have a particular audience that you have yourself and you want us to come out, all the information can be found on our website, genesis4u.org.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Mr. Ferrell Hurt. I appreciate you being on the podcast.
Thank you as well, Ms. Crystal Petry. It's been an honor and a pleasure being here as well.
Thank you. So my last question for you is, who do you think would make a great guest on the podcast, but you have to help me get them on?
Von X Media would be a great guest to have on to talk about the great things they're doing with marketing, advertisement, and small businesses.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you so much for tuning in and watching. You can get this podcast and all of my other podcasts on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. And remember, you always have time to listen and learn on the go.
Come on, let's go on a journey. Sit back, buckle up, enjoy the ride with Crystal Petry. Consulting, so inspiring, pushing you to your dreams. You can be anything. Oh, it goes with purpose. It's time to make it happen.